all the line segments have the same rate of change, we are going to have, maybe we should have a pen here, have the same rate of change. They're going to form a straight line. And we're going to call this slope. That same rate of change is not going to change. You get to pick any 2 points on the line, in other words. Doesn't matter which 2 points. You get to pick any 2 points on the line to find the rate of change, and we're going to call that rate of change slope. So it says that right here. It says step 1. First choose any 2 points on the line. Pick the ones you want. Begin at one of the points. Does it tell you have to start at one or the other? Is that optional also? Pick whichever one you want to start at. Yeah, we get to pick the one we want to start at. But here's what's really important. So would you underline, box something? We need to, the first thing we need to do is do the vertical counting. We need to count vertically first. That's what's going to be upstairs. Remember, in our rate of change, it was the change in the dependent variable. It was the change in the y, and the y-axis is the vertical axis, isn't it? So we're going to find the change in the y's first by counting. You don't have to do any setting up subtraction. You just count it. And then we are going to call that the rise. The next thing we're going to do is now we've gotten up, so we're straight across from the other point, or we're down, we went down and we're straight across from the other point. Now we need to get over to that point. We may have to go left, we may have to go right. So the next thing we're going to do is count over. What's over going to be? What direction would we call that? Horizontal. Yeah, now we're going horizontally until we get to the other point, and that is called the run. That's going downstairs. What's the change in the x's? What's the change in the x's? That's considered the run. So notice the one that they did here. Which point did they start at? Well, we know that they started at this one right here because they have the arrow showing that they went down from it. So starting at that point, we say they went down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so that until they were straight across from the other point. So the rise, notice they said, is -6. So -6 gets put upstairs in our slope. And then we count over 1, 2 to get to that other point. So the run is a +2. Why is it a +2? Because, Trey?
We went to the right.
We went to the right. Why was the 6 negative?
We went to the left.
Cameron?
You went down.
Because we went down. So the direction makes it positive or makes it negative. So then the 2 is downstairs, and then we simplify that. We divide it out if we can. What is -6 divided by 2, right? It'd be -3. So the slope of this line is -3. Right?
Could you from the bottom point do run first and then do
Okay,
rise?
let's try that. See if should we get the same slope count? Do you think a line can have more than one slope?
Yeah.
So you think if we go from the other direction, do you have a prediction then what you think the slope would be? What do you think the slope would be if we start at the bottom point instead then? So we're going to start here and we're going to go to that point. So it'll be a +3, the slope?
That'd be a decimal.
What do you think? Okay, first of all, let's go back to the behavior of the line. When we did it starting at this point and we came down to the other one, we ended up with a -3 slope. What's true about when you have a negative slope? What should be the behavior of the line?
Look,
Dakota?
I believe the run goes down, which means the slope's going to be negative.
Okay, but I want to know what's the behavior of the line when the slope is negative. What did we just put it in our books?
Falls from left to
Oh,
right.
just a second. Trey?
Falls from left to right.
It falls from left to right. Is our line falling from left to right as we go across the page?
Yes.
Yeah, it is falling, so it should have a negative slope, shouldn't it? So we better get a negative slope when we do it going from the other point also. So let's try it. So we need to go up now to get straight across that point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units we go up. So our rise is 6. And our run, is that a +6 by the way or a -6? Positive because we went up. And then our run is going to be, now we gotta go 1, 2 to the left, so that's a -2. So now we have a run of -2. What's 6 divided by -2? Isaac?
-3.
-3. So we still get the same slope, don't we? So notice, that's why it's important that you understand. It says first choose any 2 points you want. Doesn't matter which 2 points you choose. And then it says begin at one of the points. It doesn't tell you which one to begin at. It doesn't say begin at the top one or begin at the bottom one. It says you get to pick. We should all get the same answer anyway. Trey?
What if we pick two that are closer together?
That's okay. You can pick ones that are closer together. But here's what you want to do. This is what's important. When you pick the points, you want to pick points that have integer values. In other words, you don't want fractions. You don't want the point to be at like ordered pair 1/2, 2. And then the other one is at 2 1/3, 6. You want integer values. You want to be able to count grid lines, in other words, okay? So let's do number 1 here together. Let's start right here at that point, or we have the choice of starting here at that point. And notice they gave the ordered pair names, but we don't even need to worry about that right now, because we're just using the counting method. Okay, I want you first, though, before we even do it, I want you to evaluate for me. Should we get a positive slope or a negative? Dakota? Positive. Because why?
It's rising from left to right.
Because it's rising from left to right, so we better get a positive slope. Should we start at the bottom point?
Yes.
Let's go up then. We're going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4. So our okay, remember this is what we have to do. We have to say rise equals 4. And then run is downstairs. Run equals, now we're going to go, so we went up 4, that's why it's a positive 4. And now we're going to go over 2 to the right. So we start here, we say 1 grid line over, 2 grid lines over, we went to the right, so it's a positive 2. And 4 divided by 2 is 2. We ended up with a positive slope. Good thing, right? Okay, you try the next one on your own then. Even though they already have the arrows and everything there, you can pick the one you want to do. You get to start with whichever point you want. Just make sure you go up or down first. Okay, I started at the top point. How many of you started at the top point and then counted to get to the bottom point? Okay? If you start at the top point, the rise better be what then? -2. And the run is +8. Okay, what about if you started at the bottom point and went up to get to the other point? How many of you did it that way? You started with the other point. Okay, well you gotta do one or the other. So if you start with this point, in other words, you start here at this one, now we go up 2, so now we have a +2 upstairs, and we go left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, so we have a -8 downstairs. Either way, when we divide it out, we're not going to change this to a decimal though. We have a negative divided by a positive. What is a negative divided by a positive, class? A negative. And 2 over 8 can be simplified to what? 1/4. So we have a -1/4. Same thing should happen with our going from the other directions. We have a positive divided by a negative, that's still a negative. 2 over 8, 1/4. We get the same slope, whichever point we start at. Do we like the fact that our slope is negative? What do you think? Can we feel pretty secure about that we have a good answer at this point? Why? Because it's falling from left to right, and that's what negative slope is supposed to do, isn't it? Okay, how about this next one? Let's do it the direction they show. They show that they're gonna start at this point and go up. So our rise is gonna be what? What's our rise? 3. And our run is gonna be 4. No negative signs involved, right? So we don't need to clean those up. And 3/4. Can 3/4 be simplified?
175.
No, we're not going to change them to decimals. We're going to leave them as fractions. So we're going to say 3/4 is our slope. Okay, 3/4 is actually our slope.
Do we have, if it is 3/4 on our homework, do we have to put equals 3/4?
I don't want, okay, we've got 2 questions on the floor here, one at a time. First of all, we do have to put that the slope is 3/4. Yes, that's important, because that's what we're finding is the slope.
So you want straight lines?
But no, you would not have, I see what you're concerned about. Did we have to actually write it again? Could we have stopped right there?
Yeah.
You could have stopped right there, yes. And Riley's question on the floor was, can we write it as decimal? No, we are not going to write them as decimals. We're going to leave them as simplified fractions or integers, okay? If they divide out to an integer, then you can, but otherwise we're going to leave it as a fraction. Any other concerns? Okay, on this next one, all they did was put the points on the line for us, but they did not show us which direction to go, right? So it doesn't matter where we start. Let's start at the top point. Okay, so our rise. What's our rise going to be? In other words, how much are we going to have to go up or down, Riley?
-3.
-3. 1, 2, 3, and we're straight across from the other point. Our run. Riley? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we're there, okay? Now we're going to simplify. Negative divided by a positive is a negative. 3, 6, is that going to divide out to an integer? No, so what are we going to name it as?
-1/2.
1/2. -1/2 is going to be our slope. But you're not going to stop at that and move on to the next problem. You're going to do this without writing anything down. You're going to say, do I like the fact that my slope is negative? Do we like the fact that our slope is negative? Yeah. Why do we like it?
Just,
What's the behavior of the line?
it's negative.
It's falling. We don't say negative behavior for a line, just for us people. We have negative behaviors, but yeah. Lines, its behavior is it's falling from left to right. That's its behavior, and that should be the behavior when the slope is negative. Okay, what should the next one be? A positive or a negative slope, or a 0 slope, or a positive slope? We better get a positive. Okay, so let's start at the top point again, just for the fun of it. Our rise is 1, 2, 3. It looks like the other point's right over here, isn't it? So we have to go down 3, and the run
3.
is 1, 2, 3. We have to go left 3, so that's a -3. Down is negative, left is negative. A negative divided by a negative is a positive. 3 divided by 3 is 1. So our slope is 1. Is that a positive slope like we wanted? Yeah. Okay, what kind of slope should we expect for the next one? Negative. Okay, so let's be different. Let's go from the bottom point this time. So the rise. Up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we went up. So positive 5. The run. We have to go from where we stopped, we move over just 1, don't we? So -1. Positive divided by a negative is a negative. And 5 divided by 1 is 5. So we have end up with a -5 for our slope. And we said we wanted a negative slope because it's falling, correct? Okay, so